A pitcher's duel early turned into a nail-biter late. But the Jays were able to hold off the Indians thanks to this well-executed throw by Melky Cabrera in the 8th inning. Tonight, if the Indians are to get back on the winning track, they need an early lead to play from in front. Corey Kluber has had the strikeout pitch going in his last 4 starts, and he'll try to keep mowing them down next on Sports Time Ohio. From the Rogers Center in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, it's Cleveland Indians baseball. Tonight, the Tribe continues their 3-game series against the Blue Jays. Hi again, everyone. Matt Underwood alongside Rick Manning. Indians lose last night, a close ball game, and there was one big play that ultimately determined the Tribe's fate.
Well, the turning point in the game, they had a chance to come in and tie the game last night on a base hit by Yan Gomes. You have to send him. There's 2 outs here. Melky Cabrera fires a seed right to home plate. Santana comes sliding in. He is called out at the plate. The throw takes the catcher up the line and didn't look like he gave him any room to slide. He had to get away from the bat. And at that time, if you're a base runner, you have the opportunity to hit the catcher. Santana tries to slide in front of the plate. He is called out, and the umpire decides that the catcher, without the ball blocked the plate, he would be called safe. But that wasn't the case last night. Santana had an opportunity, if he wanted, to run into that catcher.
Yeah, we talked about it last night. Bottom line, it was a great throw by Cabrera, well executed, and unfortunately, that was the difference in the ball game. If the Indians want to get back in the win column, they'll need Corey Kluber to go out and pitch a good ball game tonight. This is a very good hitting Toronto lineup, but he was very good his last time out.
Yeah, and hitters are starting to get more aggressive off Kluber because he throws so many strikes back. He has, 59 strikeouts and just 12 walks this year. He pounds the strike zone, and this will be his second start against the Toronto Blue Jays in his career. He lost his first start this year, but in his last 4 starts, pitching very well. You can see the strikeouts, 38 punch-outs in the 28 innings, and they have gotten to Dustin McGowan in his career 0-2 and a high ERA against the Tribe.
All right, Indians need a win to get back to the even mark in this series and have a chance to win the series tomorrow night. Coming up next, it's the Indians and the Blue Jays. Toronto now back to 500. The Indians have slipped to 3 games below the break-even mark. Who comes out on top tonight? We'll find out next. by McDonald's. I'm loving it. By your local Toyota dealers. Visit buyatoyota.com. Toyota, let's go places. By Panini's. Get overstuffed at Panini's Bar and Grill. And by Jeep. Visit Jeep.com to learn more. And we welcome you indoors. The Rogers Center here in Toronto. The Indians and the Blue Jays ready to do battle in Game 2 of their 3-game series. On the hill for the Tribe tonight, Corey Kluber, who over his last 4 starts is 2-1 with a 1.91 earned run average. And with more on Kluber's approach tonight against a powerful Blue Jays offensive lineup, let's bring in Katie Witham.
Matt, you said it, a powerful Blue Jays lineup. Corey Kluber said this is one that features a lot of power hitters with big swings. So some pitchers have a tendency to nibble a little bit more, which can lead to a free pass, which then sets up a big 3-run homer, which, by the way, guys, the Blue Jays lead the league with 8 3-run homers this year. Kluber said the key is to challenge them. And if they're going to beat you, make them beat you with your best stuff, guys.
Yeah, thanks, Katie. And that's something the Indians have done a very good job of. The 25 homers they've allowed this year, which is tied for the fewest in the league. 18 of those have been solo shots. So let's take a look at Terry Francona's starting lineup tonight. It's brought to you by Progressive. Michael Bourne in the leadoff spot, followed by Nick Swisher. Michael Brantley had his 11-game hitting streak snapped last night. He'll hit third. Then Carlos Santana as Drupal Cabrera and David Murphy. Yan Gomes, Lonnie Chisenhall, and Mr. May, Mike Aviles, batting over 400 here in this month, will hit ninth.
32-year-old Dustin McGowan will get the start against the Indians. On the year, he is 2-1 with a 4.63 earned run average. He has his highest ERA against the Indians of any team that he has pitched against. But, you know, it's an 11 ERA. In his career, he's 0-2, but he didn't. Last start came in 2008, so it's been quite some time since he's made a start against the Tribe. That is our GMC pitcher of the day. Let's go out and look at the defense, the key of defense behind him today. It'll be Cabrera in left field, Pilar in center, Bautista in right, Francisco at third, Reyes is at short, Lowry at second. It'll be Lind at first base and Tolley behind the plate.
Jerry Mills, the crew chief, calling the balls and strikes this evening. Paul Emmels at first, Chris Conroy at second, Jordan Baker down at third. And we're just about ready to go as Michael Bourne steps in. Bourne last night in the series opener was 2 for 4 with a run batted in. And we're underway as McGowan fires a fastball in there for a strike. Pitch outside.
McGowan has made 3 starts in his home ballpark this year. He is 0-1 and a high ERA. It's up over 9.
Inside corner, a called strike. He's ahead of Bourne 1-2. One thing McGowan said he's got to do a better job of is putting hitters away. Getting to 0-2 and 1-2 counts has been one thing, but to get deeper into ball games, he said, I've got to be more cognizant of getting guys to put the ball in play so I can get quicker outs.
Well, that's the key. When you work hard to get 0-2, 1-2, that's where you really have to take care of it. And here you go. He had him down 1-2, and it's now full count. You can't start nibbling once you work hard to get ahead of him.
Now the payoff pitch. And he struck him out. You saw Bourne's hand fly off the bat. Mid-swing.
We've seen a lot of that on this road trip between Tampa and here, haven't we?
Yeah.
From various different hitters where that one hand comes off the bat. And there it is. Bottom hand comes off, and last night Swisher did it and hit the catcher in the arm.
Yeah, he lost both hands off the bat. And here is Swisher, 1 for 4 last night with a couple of runs batted in. He had an RBI single and later in the game a sac fly. Swisher hammers this ball to right field, but it's right in the tracks of Jose Bautista, and there are 2 down. Keys to the game brought to you by Akron Children's Hospital. Indians looking for some early offense. And for Corey Kluber, a good mix. Keep the Blue Jays hitters off balance, always important. Here's Michael Brantley. He went 0 for 4 in the ball game last night.
That's a rarity up here. He loves hitting in this ball.
And he takes a strike. Quite a disparity for Bourne so far, or for Brantley so far this year. His home and road splits. At home, he's batting .333, but on the road so far this year, batting just .212. That's how to play it on the left side.
Well, that's the way it's gone this year, I think, for the whole team, pitching wise and hitting wise. More guys, their ERA is at least 2 runs higher than it is at home, and offensively they're just not getting it done on the road.
And the record reflects that as well.
It certainly does.
Now the 1-2. The Indians are 12-8 at home this year, but on the road just 6-13. And a big reason for that was that 0 for the West Coast road trip that sent them into a bit of a spin.
Yeah. San Francisco Los Angeles trip, 0-6, where they really didn't score.
2 down, bases empty, and the 1-2 to Brantley in the dirt. And on the 2-2 pitch, Brantley sends a drive to center field. Cabrera got turned around, but he makes the catch. And the Indians go 1-2-3. Blue Jays are coming to bat when we come back. Bottom of the first here in Toronto. John Gibbons starting lineup for the Blue Jays, brought to you by Toyota. Jose Reyes will lead it off. Then it's Melky Cabrera, followed by Jose Bautista. Edwin Encarnacion Adam Lynn and Juan Francisco swinging a hot bat, and he's been very productive for Toronto. Brett Laurie 7th, Josh Tolley 8th, and Kevin Pillar will bat 9th.
GMC pitcher of the game for the Indians, Corey Kluber, who is 3-3 on the year, been pitching much better lately in his last 4 starts. On the road this year, he's 1-2. But he got that win in Tampa in his last start. He went 6 2/3, gave up 9 hits and a couple of runs. Did not walk anybody, had 9 strikeouts in that game. This will be his 2nd start against the Blue Jays, both coming this year.
And Jose Reyes leads off, looks at a strike. Reyes 1 for 4 last night, but his one hit was a leadoff triple, and it led to the Blue Jays' first run of the night. And in that one at bat, he showed you why he can be such an impact player and one of the game's really exciting players. Because when he splits the outfielders, he can run with the best of them. Lines this one to Brantley, who takes a hit away from him for out number 1.
Check the Kia Indians defense behind Kluber this evening. It looks like this. Brantley in left, Bourne in center, Murphy in right. Santana is at third, Cabrera at short, Aviles at second, Swisher is at first, with Gomes behind the plate.
Up comes Melky Cabrera. Had an RBI last night and made the play of the game defensively when he threw out Carlos Santana at the plate in the 8th inning. Kluber with a strike over the outside corner.
Well, Cabrera doing a nice job offensively, multi-hit games, leading the league, hits, batting average. It's a nice slot for him in the number 2 hole here in this lineup.
Lines that one to third, and a nice stab by Santana for out number 2. So a couple of line drive outs to start.
Well, that's just a reaction play. As you're going to get a good look here. That ball comes off the bat. He didn't even have time to take a step. It was up high enough where you're going to see that ball is just to his left, and you almost fall on top of it. So that ball hit right on the nose, but it goes for an out.
The Indians will go with a 3-man shift on the left side of the infield now for Jose Bautista, keeping Nick Swisher on the right side by himself. And Kluber goes right at him with a first pitch strike. Stat of the game brought to you by Buick. Colorado leading all of baseball with 58 home runs, but Toronto right behind them leading the American League. Swung on and missed, foul tipped it. Kluber overpowering him with that 96-mile-an-hour fastball. Taps that one foul. Kluber's 0-2 offering. Bounced on the ground to first base. Swisher backing up. And the flip to Kluber retires the side in order. No score after 1 in Toronto. Your Northeast Ohio Honda dealers. By the Cleveland Clinic. Call today for an appointment today. And by the Northeast Ohio Ford dealers. No score, second inning. Carlos Santana as Dribble Cabrera, David Murphy. Due for Cleveland. Santana 1 for 4 last night. So 3 hits in his last 2 ball games. Blue Jays employ a 3-man shift on the right side for Santana as he looks at a strike. Well, they've got Laurie, the second baseman, really out there deep.
Yeah, but it's tough to get a bad hop off the turf because there's no dirt to get to the grass.
Yeah.
So you can afford to play maybe a little deeper in a field like this.
What the Blue Jays do, and we've seen a number of teams employ this, they take their third baseman and put him over on the right side. They leave Reyes, who has tremendous range, they leave him on the left side of the infield. Santana got a piece of that, and the count is a ball and 2 strikes. It was a good story in the USA Today on Monday about the shifts and the problems it's causing hitters nowadays. The 1-2 pitch is down low, and batting averages are down, and roughly how many hits it's taking away. And the interesting part of the article is that what is it doing to hitters mentally? And is it causing hitters like Carlos Santana, David Ortiz, guys who are in the middle of the lineup, is it causing them to think about doing things they wouldn't normally do, like lay down a bunt or try to take a ball to the opposite field, hit it on the ground where there may be a spot vacated?
And you see more teams doing it, and they're doing it a lot more than ever when they're making shifts for almost every hitter.
It also pointed out that they have so many ways of measuring these things now because every game can be seen on some type of media, whether it's television. But there have also been a number of cases where because of the shift it's given up a hit, because in a normal traditional alignment there would have been a guy standing right where the ball was hit. So
I think it takes away more hits from the hitters than it gives.
Definitely. Santana draws a walk. And last night Santana was right in the middle of the biggest play of the night. He was on second. He got a good secondary lead. He ran well. He ran hard. But right at the last second the throw got there and he was tagged out at the plate.
Now watch, you can see the bat sitting out there. He can't slide on the bat. Umpire didn't have time to get it. He came in. It was a very close play at home plate. A good throw by Cabrera. And that was the tying run in the 8th inning.
The on-deck hitter doesn't have time to run from the on-deck circle up to get the bat out of the way. Usually it's an umpire who you'll see either grab it or kick it out of the way if he has time. In that situation last night, Jordan Baker probably just didn't have time to react.
No, he did not. And that ball was hit so hard out to Cabrera. He came in and made really a good throw.
Out of play. Now sometimes you'll even see the catcher kick it out of the way because he doesn't want to step on it either.
True, but when it was sitting out in front of home plate, it wasn't going to bother the catcher there. It was only going to bother the base runner.
Not the way, where that was laying last night. Santana's running. Pitch is inside, the throw down, not in time. Give Santana credit. He was itching like he wanted to go. He had a foot out on the turf. And he got a good jump on McGowan. And he has his second stolen base of the year.
Well, he took off and stopped and started again. Thought he had him timed, but he still steals the base.
So he's in a scoring position. Almost like a leadoff double now. Asdrubal Cabrera has the count in his favor at 2-1. And he swings at a pitch up. Good fastball. And it's 2-2. Interesting too, Rick, that with the runner at second base in that shift now, they've got Francisco back over near third base. He's not over there where he was previously.
Right.
Now it's Reyes who's near second and Francisco back over at third. Got him looking. Cabrera strikes out. Second punch out for McGowan. One down here in the inning. Time now for our Here Right Audiology Sounds of the Game. This is Terry Francona before today's game talking about that play at the plate last night.
I thought that the catcher, the throw took him across the plate. I don't know what else he could have done. I didn't think there was anything. I wish I could say, I wish we could have challenged something. I thought he did a good job. I mean, if you're a catcher and you know the angle of the throw, I thought he did a really good job. I mean, he's got to make the play. So I thought the bat's what messed up Carlos.
One down for David Murphy. And it's fouled at the plate. Count 0-2. I think that play at the plate, the strange thing is, because of to a certain degree, the ambiguity of what is the actual letter of the law on plays at the plate, people are still kind of walking around today kind of scratching their head. Man, I'm not sure exactly what could have been done or what should have been done.
It will take a while. I mean, until you see everything. But if the throw takes the catcher up the line or
base hit into right field. Santana coming around third. They're going to wave him home. Batista's got a great arm. His throw to the plate is up the line. Santana beats the throw to the plate. And the Indians strike first tonight on the RBI single by David Murphy, his 20th run driven in on the year.
So the walk, the stolen base, pays dividends. Murphy gets a big hit with a runner in scoring position. This will be on McDonald's. I'm loving it. That ball middle of the plate. Totally going to reach up for it, and David pulls it in the hole between first and second. That allows Santana to score all the way from second. The Indians have a 1-0 lead. But getting back into that play, Matt, if the throw from any fielder comes in and that catcher has to slide and he's in front of the plate, as a runner, you can barrel into him. You just don't go head hunting.
Right.
But you're allowed to go and run into that catcher and try and knock the ball out of play if that happens.
As long as the runner does not deviate from his path to initiate the contact.
That's right. So, you know, you'll go all year and you'll see a few plays, I'm sure, throughout the course of the year where we may see some collisions. We may see some guys called out for blocking the plate if they're catchers. But it's few and far between.
Low throw dug out nicely by Lynn.
See, he's coming across. Here comes a throw, and he's got to move his body to get over there. But that's where the bat comes into play for Santana. His right foot is right on the plate, but then he moved it, and then he gets the ball and he tags him out. And, you know, they could have reviewed it, but we showed that Santana was out clearly.
Yeah.
Even though it was at a point in time of the game where, you know, you may wanted to take a chance, but he was out by about 6 inches, I think.
Yeah, had he challenged the tag, he wasn't going to win that. Now, there again, somebody still has to go look at it, and then, you know, but it looked pretty obvious on the replays.
Convincing that he was out. Yes.
He was out. Murphy's at first with one out as Yan Gomes has a 1-ball, 1-strike count. And it was Gomes who lined that ball into left field last night.
Yeah, they got away with it because they had first base open, the left-hander on the mound, Cecil facing him, and he tried to pitch him to get a pitch inside. He didn't get there. Gomes burned him.
And Terry said he had thought about pinch running for Santana, but because Cecil was on the mound, he thought, you know, I could send Rayburn up to pinch hit next, because with first base open, he thought they would work around Gomes.
Well, I did too.
Gomes pops this one high in the air on the infield. And Laurie, the second baseman, has it 2 down. Up comes Lonnie Chisenhall. To kind of go back to what Terry was saying, because I thought it was, I always love to hear managers' thoughts on the strategy in a ball game, as Chisenhall lines up base hit into left field, and Murphy will stop at second base. But essentially what Terry was saying last night is, when Chisenhall was on deck, figuring that Cecil might work around the right-handed hitting Gomes to face the left-handed hitting Chisenhall, then Terry said, I could have pinch hit Rayburn, and if they would have gone to a right-hander, I could have done a 2-for-1 move and brought in Nyjer Morgan.
And then you have to save one at the back end of it. So yeah, he was looking at it. But you know what? It wasn't anything as far as a base running mistake by Santana. On why you pinch, you pinch run.
Mike Aviles, 1 for 4 last night with a run scored. I'm sure they have a database that would tell you the answer to this, but I wonder, second to home, how much faster would, say, Nyjer Morgan be than Santana?
Well,
is it worth a step?
I don't. It could be. It very well could be.
Aviles pops one in the air to center field. Pilar is there, and the inning is over. But the Indians get on the board first here tonight. David Murphy's RBI single plates Carlos Santana, and Cleveland has a 1-0 lead. One nothing in favor of the Indians as we go now to the home half of inning number 2. 4, 5, and 6 due up for Toronto. Edwin Encarnacion to lead it off. Encarnacion DHing tonight. He went 0 for 4 in the series opener last night. Corey Kluber delivers a fastball for strike 1.
They had Encarnacion playing first base and Lind DHing, but right before the game they switched the two. And now he is DHing and Lind is at first.
Upstairs, and the count evens at 2-2. Swung out and missed. He got him to chase. It's his first strikeout tonight, 1 down in the second. Injury report brought to you by the attorneys at Elk & Elk. And for Toronto, Colby Rasmus on the bench day to day. Their closer Sergio Santos on the DL, as is My Series Tourism Brandon Morrow. Adam Lynn, 1 for 3, had a double last night.
Yeah, a big 2-run double to left center field off Masterson when they had their 3-run inning back in the 6th.
Count, no balls, 2 strikes on Lynn. And Corey Kluber just pumped a fastball right by him at 95 miles an hour, and that's back-to-back Ks. The Indians' injury picture is right now centered on Jason Kipnis and how quickly they can get him back in the everyday lineup. Katie Witham has an update.
Kipnis was finally able to pick up a bat, Matt, and take a few swings off of a tee. The Indians training staff said he's progressing well, but most importantly, he's feeling good right now. Originally, they said he'd need 3 to 5 weeks. His timetable, Matt, around May 20th through June 3rd to return, but Terry Francona said he will definitely need a couple rehab starts.
Yeah, would think so after missing all that time, but it's only been a couple of weeks to this point.
Great thing about being young, you heal quicker, don't you?
That's what they say.
Do you remember?
That's what they say.
Do you remember when that used to be?
No, I'm still hurt.
Pitch outside, 2 balls, no strikes. Juan Francisco has been swinging a very potent bat. And here in the month of May, he's really taken off.
And they had to find him some playing time. That's why he's playing third base now. And they moved Laurie over to second base. The guy's bat, you start hitting. Now they've got pretty good pop in the lineup. Now you add this guy who hit a bomb last night into the second deck here off Masterson. He has got some legitimate power. As athletes call it, or guys that have played, that's stupid power. I mean, that's the kind he has. He can hit it a long way.
Yeah, he hit it into the second deck in the alley, about as far as you can hit it into that second deck without hitting the facing, which would lead you to the top deck here. Take another look at where this baby lands.
Well, that was right down the middle, but I mean, yeah, that uppercut there, and it was right up to the right of that Rogers sign out there, which is pretty much deep right center field.
3-2 pitch. Swung on and missed. Kluber with another strikeout, and he whiffs the side here in the second. Indians, third inning. Top of the order due here for Cleveland. Bourne, Swisher, Brantley. Michael Bourne struck out his first time up. And McGowan changed to pace. And Bourne out in front, 0-1. Ground ball up the middle. It's through, and Michael Bourne is aboard to start the third. Back-to-back innings now. The Indians get their leadoff man aboard. Our great clip of the game from last night, Michael Bourne delivering an RBI base hit in a right field.
Yeah, picked on a hanging breaking ball. Slaps it to right field.
Indians had their streak snapped last night. 21 straight games with at least one extra base hit. I think that's what Terry Francona meant afterwards when he said we just needed one more big hit. They had singles and came within a whisker of an RBI single that would have tied the game from Gomes, but he was talking more like that double that gets 2 or 3 runs in with one swing of the bat or something of that nature.
Yeah, sometimes that's all it takes is one big hit. I mean, they had 8 hits. They out-hit the Jays last night 8-6. But they left 7 stranded.
Just outside, 2-0.
You know, and they were able to get back into the game because of an error on Toronto's end of it. You know, it was a double play ball that Lowry couldn't field at second base, and that's when it really opened up the inning for the Indians.
Brett Lowry, a third baseman by trade, but he's made the move to second to get Juan Francisco's bat in the lineup. He wasn't real crazy about the idea at first. He really didn't think much of it. He figured it would be a short-term situation, but obviously he's you know, like any player, he understands that sometimes you got to do things for the good of the team. Might not necessarily be great for you, but it's going to help the team as a whole. Two-one pitch. Swisher bounces it to first. Lynn goes to second, but the ball gets away from Reyes, and everybody's safe. Really? I'm not sure if the ball just didn't get hung up in Michael Bourne's jersey.
It was really a difficult throw there by Lynn, going to second base, because Bourne can run a little bit to get down there, and it has to be a perfect throw because he's right in line. He steps in. He didn't hesitate, and Bourne's going to the inside. As you can see,
I think Reyes got screened.
He might have been screened by Bourne. That ball comes, you know, out of Bourne or past Bourne, and the next thing you know, he just didn't catch it. And I mean, it wasn't all that bad of a throw. It just took off on him a little bit.
Yeah, and I think with Bourne bearing down on him, So it's a fielder's choice and an error on Lynn. And let's see if the Indians can take advantage with 2 on, nobody out. Michael Brantley to the plate. Fly to center his first time up.
Toronto is the best fielding team. That's just their 18th error on the season. They had one last night and one tonight. And
Brantley lifts one in the air down the left field line, slicing. Cabrera can't get to it, and it lands foul. Not by much, though, either. You know, I was thinking, Rick, with regards to Lowry and making that position change over to second base. He doesn't have to look far if he wants some guidance on how to do that, because the guy in right field, Jose Bautista, before he broke out with a 50-homer season, he was bouncing all over the place. Third base, outfield. I think he played some first base. He never knew where his name was going to be in the lineup.
That is true.
Now the 0-1. Brantley watches it sail high to even the count. Bourne started it with a base hit right up the middle. And he was safe at second on the error by Adam Lynn. And Swisher hit the ground ball to first. So 2 on, nobody out. Bourne kept inching off little by little at second base until McGowan just said, you know, I've got to step off or he might just keep going. Upstairs, 2-1. With less than 2 out and a runner in scoring position, Brantley has batted .381 so far in the year. Ripped it back foul. And 2-2 the count. Michael takes a walk.
Michael has a lot of room in left center field. Oh, now look who's moving over.
I think he was listening to you.
He might be. With 2 strikes, you know, he's moving over.
This Booth mic'd. 2-2. Just missing in a full count. I think McGowan wanted that pitch.
Take a look at it on our Nissan pitch tracker. Backdoor breaking ball. No, off the plate. Yeah, he wants it, but that was not a strike.
Brantley had a call go against him in one of his at-bats last night. He was really unnerved by that. One of the few times you've seen him react afterwards. He just slammed his bat into the ground. He's got such a good eye at the plate, as most good hitters do. He's not one to argue, but when a call goes against him and he feels like it was definitely a bad call, chances are he's right. 3-2 pitch. Hit in the air, well struck to left field. Back goes Melky. Cabrera makes the catch in the middle of the warning track for out number 1. Well, Michael gave it a ride trying to go oppo, but it died into the glove of Cabrera, right in the smack in the middle of the track. That will bring up Carlos Santana, who walked, stole a base, and scored the game's only run in the second inning. How odd is it that Carlos Santana's season batting average is exactly the same as his batting average with runners in scoring position? 152.
Ouch. Had them both together and you got 304.
That would be better. Carlos is 5 out of 33 with a runner in scoring position. Missed down low, 2-0. Obviously, with runners on scoring position, pitchers working out of the stretch, they will slow things down. But what a contrast,
yeah,
from McGowan tonight.
Oh, I know it.
From last night with R.A. Dickey, who was
Well, he's starting to fall behind hitters now. You get him out of that stretch. Some pitchers are a little bit different coming out of the stretch. You know, he started out the game and it seemed like he was 1-2 to almost every hitter, and then you get him out of the stretch and he's not the same guy. That guy there, he worked quickly last night. Reminiscent of Mark Burley, who is, you know, the quickest worker in the league. I'll tell you, Dickey was not far behind.
3-1 pitch. Santana with a swing and a foul back. Full count. Michael Bourne, who started the inning off with a base hit at second base. Swisher reached on the fielder's choice at first. Now the 3-2 pitch. Ball 4. Good eye by Santana. He started as though he was going to get after it, but he was able to stop himself. Now they're loaded up with 1 out for Asdrubal Cabrera. Just a reminder, you can tweet your photos to us using the hashtag STOFanPhoto to have it shown during one of our telecasts. It's all courtesy of AT&T. Asdrubal Cabrera has batted only twice this year with the bases loaded. He's 0 for 2. Hard hit ground ball to first. To second for 1. A double play. McGowan gets out of it with a twin killer. And we'll go to the bottom of the third. 1-0 Cleveland. Just a reminder, as you enjoy a cold one, to stay tuned later in the game for Miller Time, brought to you by Miller Lite. So the Indians lead at 1-0. Bottom of the third. It will be the bottom third of the Toronto order due up. Brett Lawrie, Josh Tolley, and Kevin Pillar.
Well, exactly what Katie said before the game. She said that Kluber was going to be aggressive, and he has been just that. 24 pitches, 17 strikes. Came out last inning and struck out the side.
6th in the American League in strikeouts coming in. And that'll even the count. And I mean, lately he's just been ridiculous. 12 strikeouts per 9 innings pitched in his last four starts.
Well, they come because he's ahead of a lot of hitters, you know, and he can expand their zone. He has that good of stuff.
Cabrera throws out Laurie, one away. Time now for a Mazda game break. We'll go back to the studios and Al Pulowski. All right, thanks, Al. 15 home runs for a Brave. Well, Josh Tolley. Tolley has 15 hits and 40 at-bats so far this year.
You know, the Jays, as I mentioned, this is only the second time that they faced Kluber. He had to start against him in Cleveland where they beat him, but you know, they still don't have a good book on him as a hitter, so that first time through you may be a little more patient and take pitches, see if they try and step it up the second time through the lineup. He gave up 5 runs. It was a 5-0 game. Went 6 2/3.
Tolley lines one foul down the left side.
There you see when that left-hander hits it, how it slices and goes foul because of the spin on it, the inside-out swing.
Fastball up high. He went chasing, and that's 4 strikeouts for Kluber.
This one was upstairs. He got him to chase above the zone. It's above the belt. And Tolley goes after. That's a ball. But when you're up there, you have 2 strikes on the hitters. He will make them chase. So he struck out 4 of the first 8 hitters he has faced.
Kevin Pillar was 0 for 3 last night, struck out twice in his season debut for Toronto. Hard hit ground ball to second baseman Mike Aviles. And that's that. Corey Kluber 9 up, 9 down through the first 3 innings. The Indians lead it 1-0. 1-0. The Indians lead it. Top of the fourth. David Murphy to lead it off for Cleveland. Indians had the bases loaded, 1 out in the third inning, but a double play ball short-circuited the potential rally. So deflating when you have a bases loaded situation and you don't get anything out of it, especially when there's less than 2 outs.
Well, they set the inning up for the Indians after the single. He had an error and a walk. That's what set it up. And then he comes back and makes a pitch. Cabrera swung at the first pitch again.
It's almost like first and goal at the 1-yard line and you don't score.
Well,
it's kind of got that same deflating feeling.
That happens sometimes where it runs in cycles. They've been very good, though, with the bases loaded this year. You've been saying it all along.
469 team average coming into tonight. Now David Murphy, he's going for extra bases. He'll round first, he'll head for second, and he'll pull in there with a leadoff double. So 3 straight innings now the Indians have had their leadoff man aboard.
Murphy now 2 for 2 tonight. Single and a double. That ball middle in, and he just turned on it. So a good start to this inning. They can come right back and keep them out of the stretch and put a couple on the board.
Yan Gomes, who popped up on the infield his first time up, will be digging in now to take his cuts against Dustin McGowan. Ground ball in the hole. It's in the right field. Murphy's coming around third. He'll get stopped there. Bautista got to it quickly. It was in fairly shallow right field, but a nice job to beat the shift by Yan Gomes by taking a ball and bouncing it through that big hole on the right side.
And he was very conscious of his job in that situation. His job is to hit it to the right side to get the runner over. They were playing him in that shift, so it's just a routine ground ball. That's where, where they were playing him, the shift, it benefited Gomes. But he got his job done. Didn't get the RBI, but that's okay. It's first and third. Good job.
Brings up Lonnie Chisenhall. He singled to left field his first time up. Foul right back. Bring in Katie with him. Katie, how's Lonnie Chisenhall adjusting to the DH role rather than the everyday role as a third baseman?
Matt, he actually spoke with Jason Giambi about it, who told him you have to figure out what's best for you. And what Lonnie said has been key for him is to keep moving, not let himself cool off. Every half inning, he's running the stairs, doing sprints inside, or taking swings in the cages.
Yeah, I think it would be a difficult adjustment when you haven't done it.
Yeah, for a young player, I can see how it would be a lot more difficult because, you still don't know a lot of the pitchers in the league, and you like to go out there and play defense as well. And maybe he should be playing a little more defense at third base. Santana should be DH at times too, because, Chisenhall's done a really good job, I think.
Chased one that time, a ball and 2 strikes. Lonnie has done a very good job swinging the bat this year.
Well, it seems like he's been a little more aggressive. He's using for me, he's using a lot more of the field than he has in the past.
25 hits and 76 at bats against right-handers, which is most of his playing time. He's only had 3 at bats, I believe. Let's check. 2 at bats against left-handed pitchers this year.
Man, look at him. It's been. He's pulled 11, gone to left field 8 times and 6 in center. So that's pretty even. Using a lot of the field.
Doesn't even seem like he's pulled that many.
True.
Line drive, base hit, right field. That'll bring home Murphy. Gomes will stop at second, and the Indians lead is 2-0. 3 straight hits to open the 4th inning as Chisenhall picks up RBI number 4 on the year, and he's 2 for 2.
Picked on an off-speed pitch. Looked like a hanging breaking ball to me that he was able to pull. It speeds up his bat. And you're going to see that it was a pitch upstairs in the zone. Looked like a breaking ball. There's our Wendy slow motion replay. There it is, a spinner up top. And that's what speeds it up. The ball's elevated. And with that breaking ball, the velocity is down, so he gets the barrel head of the bat out front and pulls it to right. So now it's 2-0, and they still have first and second and nobody out.
Avila's trying to bunt, and it goes foul. Rick, is there? I know you didn't play a lot on AstroTurf in your career, but is there a different trick you have to know when you're bunting on this stuff as opposed to grass?
No big deal. No, just go out there and get the bunt down. Nothing to think about. It used to be maybe a little faster than what this stuff is now, but Avilas has done a nice job when he's been sacrificing.
They're coming in hard at the corners. He squares, bunts it, well done. Nice. The pitcher's trying to go to third, and they got him.
Wow. Oh boy, that's too bad, because that was a pretty nice bunt by Avilas.
It looked like Jan's slide slowed him down.
Yeah.
I think he was going to beat the play, but he might have slid just a moment too early, and it kind of slowed him down.
See, you want the third baseman to field it. He could have bunted it harder, but the pitcher comes off. And they get him by about a foot or so. And sometimes you can't be too fine when you're bunting the ball. You just want to get it down. He maybe should have directed it to the line a little bit more than what he did, so they get the lead runner.
So 1 out. And Michael Bourne, who is 1 for 2, is the batter. He singled right up the middle his last time up. Getting some action now in the Toronto bullpen already. Bourne takes a strike. Esmil Rogers getting loose. Squibbed up the third baseline. This is going to be trouble if it stays fair, but it goes foul.
That was, I guess, pretty smart on Francisco's part. I thought that was going to stay fair all the way. He was going to make a play, and he wasn't going to throw Bourne out at all. The only play, I was thinking the guy could keep right on running. Chisenhall could have kept going, but it does go foul.
And Bourne was really hoofing it down the first baseline. So he's.
Was it Bourne that had one in Tampa where the ball trickled down the line and it just stayed fair all the way down? Had an RBI single and we were in Tampa. I don't know if it was Michael Bourne.
Yes, it was. Yeah, he got jammed.
Yeah,
it was a half swing.
Half swing. He got an RBI, and that ball looked like it was gonna. It was Morgan. That's who it was. It wasn't Bourne. It was Morgan.
Ah, that's right. There you go. Oh boy, Michael Bourne says, "Are you kidding me?" Michael Bourne, I've never seen him really take issue with an umpire, and he is nose to nose with Jerry Meals. And Terry Francona is going to go out and try to make sure he doesn't get tossed.
Well, if he let him have that much say, then he must have been wrong, because a lot of times umpires won't let you go out and talk that much. We'll have to get another look at it, but you're right. Michael Bourne is not that vocal when it comes to calls. But he let him have his say. I will give him that. So he didn't use any cuss words or say the wrong thing. He's still in the ball game. Doesn't make it any different. He's still upset with the call. Let's see. They're looking away for something, and that ball. You know what happened? He was looking for one pitch and got another one crossed up. You know what? The catcher made it maybe look worse than what it was.
Yeah,
and I'm not
agree.
saying it was a strike, but the catcher really totally made it look like it was not even close.
And normally you don't get that call.
That is true.
Just because the umpire's going, what in the world's going on here?
Well, watch it on the pitch track. What's our pitch tracker say? It's got it down there at about the knees, down and away. He really made it look bad. Botched that ball, but he got the strike call anyway.
Well, once again, the Indians with a promising inning, but on the verge of having it be short-circuited yet again, unless Swisher can come through with a 2-out hit now. That's already the 73rd pitch thrown by Dustin McGowan here, and we're only in the 4th inning.
Well, they've had the leadoff man aboard 3 out of the 4 innings, so he's been out of that stretch and having to work very hard, and you can see he's had difficulties, but he still has only given up 2 runs. He's had the opportunity to give up 5 or more, but the Indians haven't been able to take advantage of it.
Well, remember, he had him 1, 2, 3 in the 1st inning.
Right. Had a breeze first inning.
Two on, 2 out, and a 2-ball, 2-strike count. McGowan was headed off the mound that time.
Okay, he was. He was walking to the dugout. He's shaking his head. Well, that's the one he called right there on Bourne. That was right there.
The runners will be off with this payoff pitch to Swisher. And Nick might have fouled that off of his foot. Oh, right off the toe, huh? Well, they'll try it again here. Chisenhall's at second, Aviles at first. They'll get a head start on the 3-2 to Swisher. And a bouncing ball to second. Laurie throws him out. Well, the Indians slowly but surely add to their lead. It's 2-0, middle of the 4th. FoxSportsOhio.com. More on the role Terry Francona will have working with some of baseball's best at the All-Star game. Sam Amico lists some potential Cavs coaching candidates, and his weekly chat will recap what's next for the team. It's all on FoxSportsOhio.com. Bottom of the fourth here in Toronto. Jose Reyes, who lined to left his first time up, will be the batter.
Let's see if Toronto makes any adjustments this time through, because Kluber has thrown so many strikes to him. First time through, 24 of 34.
Reyes takes ball one.
They made a little of an adjustment to Masterson yesterday when he started to go through that second time.
4 strikeouts for Kluber tonight. Indians lead the league, 349 strikeouts now on the year. They're on pace to set a new franchise record. The 1-1 outside with it. Foul by inches down that first baseline. Right at the feet of first base umpire Paul Emmel. And a 2-2 count for Reyes now. Only the Dodgers in the National League had struck out more batters than the Indians coming into play today. They had 10 more strikeouts.
They must have recently just taken over.
Swisher will flip it to Kluber. 1 away.
When you talk about Corey Kluber, you just watch the location, and that's a good slider that he's able to get. And you know, when he's ahead of these hitters in the count, so he's able to get them to chase pitches out of the strike zone. So he struck out the side in the second. He ended up getting 1 in the third. So 4 of the first 10 guys he has faced now, he has struck out.
Melky Cabrera hit one right on the nose his first time up, but he lined it at Carlos Santana for an out. Low, ball 1. Got to be his first 3-0 count of the night.
Yes, it is.
And the 3-1. Beautiful pitch. Looked like a backdoor cutter. And a full count.
He doesn't like to walk people. He does not like it. I don't care if he's down 3-0. He's going to come right back and get you. There's the cutter. Pretty much a go-to pitch for him when he wants to throw a strike.
Cabrera tried to take it the other way, but it's foul. To center, Michael Bourne makes the catch.
Comes all the way back.
Boy, he has hit some balls hard with nothing to show for it.
Yeah.
Well, follow every Indians game with MLB.com at bat on your favorite mobile phone or tablet. Get live look-ins, instant replay scores, stats, audio, free MLB TV, game of the day, and more. Download the App Store or visit Indians.com today. Jose Bautista, ground out victim his first time up. Oh, perfect pitch. 95 at the knees on the outside corner. Bautista might not like it because he can't hit it. Yeah, right. A little comebacker. Look at Bautista's frustration. And Corey Kluber continues to cut down the Blue Jay hitters. 4 complete. Cleveland 2, Toronto nothing. Cleveland Indians baseball is brought to you by the all-new Sunnyside Chevrolet in Elyria. Sunny will save you money. By Levin Furniture. And by Kia. Visit mykiacleveland.com to learn more. Inning number 5 about to commence with the Indians in front 2-0. 3, 4, 5 due up for Cleveland. Brantley, Santana, and Cabrera. Dustin McGowan, like a heavyweight prize fighter, has bobbed and weaved. He's cut above the eye, but he's still standing as Brantley lines one over the head of Bautista. One hops the fence. And Michael will go into second base with a leadoff double. 4 straight innings. The Indians have had their leadoff man aboard. Second straight inning. It's been with a leadoff double.
Yeah, and I mean, they've left 2 stranded in the last 3 innings. This ball smoked. Michael comes back and picks on a fastball, drilled it over the head of Bautista and right. That short hops the wall, bounces around. Brantley comes in with his 9th double. That's already hit number 7 for the Indians here. We're in the 5th inning.
Esmail Rogers had been warming last inning.
Oh, he's got to be ready by now.
But he's not up yet, but it probably won't be long before he is summoned yet again. If the Indians can keep the pressure on McGowan. Santana has walked twice tonight. He walked and scored in the second. He walked and was forced out in the third.
There you go. There he is.
Trying to find a good apple.
He's probably used everyone in the bag to this point.
A little bit low, 2 balls, no strikes.
Well, you're right. He's been bobbing and weaving, and he's just, I mean, he's kept it a 2-run game. The Indians have had opportunity to bury this guy, and they haven't been able to do it.
Pete Walker had a look of exasperation on his face, didn't he?
Yeah.
As if to say, oh boy, here we go again.
You know, it's almost like, why are you throwing out of the full windup? Because you're going right to the stretch after every hitter. You know, in the leadoff hitter, 4 straight innings now for the Tribe.
But just like last night, the Indians haven't been able to get that big hit. Wow. Santana, low bridge Sandy Alomar down there at first base, and that ball.
Well, that's okay. If you're going to swing 3-0, that's how you do it. Be ready for it. Make sure you get the barrel head of that bat out, and he sure did. But that goes to show you 3-0 pitch when you're looking for. You see how far he hit it foul. Yeah. And he's been in a dead pull mode for a long time now.
Santana finally launches one to deep right field. Gone. A second deck shot for Carlos Santana. He says, I've had enough of these foul balls. Let me straighten one out, and boy, did he ever. His 5th home run of the year makes it a 4-0 Indians lead.
Well, he gets another 3-1 pitch, and that one was out a little bit, over the plate a little more, and he was able to keep this one in fair territory and hits it way. That was into the second deck for Santana, his 5th home run.
That alleviates some of the frustration that had maybe permeated that dugout from tonight with all of the base runners left aboard. 6 in the last 3 innings stranded. But Santana gets into one and put a jolt into it. As Drupal Cabrera 0 for 2 on the night. And he laces a base hit into right field. Well, he went down and got that pitch. And that might be curtains for McGowan. Here comes John Gibbons. So the Indians had 3 straight hits off McGowan to open the 4th inning. They managed 1 run. 3 straight hits here in the 5th, and already 2 home for the Tribe as they lead it 4-0. Today's Cleveland Clinic call to the bullpen will be for former Indian Esmiel Rogers. He's coming on when we come back. Carlos Santana put a good swing on this baseball. Fastball, and Good night.
Well, he walked his first 2 times up, the only 2 walks that McGowan had, and then he fell behind 3-0, and he put a really good swing on the 3-0 pitch, but drilled it foul. This one was out a little more over the plate, and Santana hits pay dirt finally. His 5th home run, a 2-run homer, made it 4-0.
Now David Murphy. 2 for 2 on the night, a single, a double, an RBI, and a run scored. And he hits one hard to center field, but Pilar is there to make the catch. 1 away. Time for a Mazda game break. Back to the studios and Al Pawlowski. All right, thanks. Here's Yan Gomes. Singled his last time up. 1 on, 1 out on the 5th. Ismael Rogers did a terrific job for the Indians coming out of the bullpen. He did even a better job for the Tribe in that trade when you consider it netted them Yan Gomes and Mike Aviles.
Yeah, Rogers started 20 games for him last year. But I will say this now, McGowan, who started tonight, he had some ugly numbers in his home ballpark, and they're going to continue. He was 0-1 with a .926 in his 3 starts. He's got a chance to go 0-2 and maybe add to that ERA.
He said his last time out he didn't have his slider, but the numbers would indicate it was a terrific performance. But he said he got by primarily with a fastball and a changeup. Tonight, the Indians had him out of the stretch, other than the first inning, right out of the chute. 4 straight innings, leadoff man aboard, and he was able to get out of some trouble thanks to a double play ball and some.
Well, he dodged a lot of bullets. He's lucky to only give up 4 tonight, in my opinion. They had opportunities.
Gomes pulls it foul. Four runs on 9 hits already for the Indians. In the dirt, and Cabrera with a delayed steal is going to be safe. He missed the tag.
He sure did.
Cabrera went in with the back leg, and he kicked his lead leg out to the side. That's where Laurie went to tag him, but there was no leg there to tag.
Well, the umpire stayed on it. I give him credit. Chris Conroy,
yeah.
He comes out and he's going to look at it until they can get it, but it looked like he missed the tag all the way around. The ball beats him, and you can see where Tolley comes up. There's the ball that beats him. Oh wait, he got him on the other foot. He might have been out. They may have a legitimate. I think they'll look at this again. They'll challenge this. Watch the tag on his opposite foot going out there.
I don't know.
Well,
that's a tough angle there.
That angle there is tough. This is the one. See, here comes the one behind.
Is it conclusive? Did he tag?
Well,
I can't tell if he tagged.
I thought he tagged his front foot from the first angle we had.
They're going to look at it.
Yes, I know. He felt like they got the front foot before that back foot got the base. It'll be interesting to see what angles they have. You know, as a guy now, and they're watching everything, you almost have to just almost put a knee down or just try and block something. You don't want to get cleated. But it was like a little hook slide, as the Blue Jays will challenge this.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty good by Cabrera. And I think there's an angle they're showing on the scoreboard, and he definitely got him.
Yeah, that's what the front foot that he left out there, and he was waiting for the back foot to go home. I thought he tagged that foot
right
before
there.
that.
Right there is where the contact is. It's kind of hard to see from that angle, but we just saw another angle in park here. Then I think that, showed pretty clearly.
And the reason why he might have called him safe is because he's behind the play there. You know what I'm saying? On the inside of the infield, and he doesn't really see that outside foot. He's looking at the other foot, and I think he felt like he swiped and missed him. But if he tagged that foot, he's out from the look I got.
Yeah, it looks like, I don't know if we have a shot from the third base camera, but that's the angle. There it is right there.
There. I'm thinking he's out.
Hard to tell from that angle.
Well, we'll see. Is it conclusive? Inconclusive? You know, the longer they keep him on, the more angles they're looking at. They don't look like they're hearing a whole lot.
Well, again, it's very difficult. We saw one angle that looked like it was pretty conclusive, that the tag didn't nick Cabrera's shoe as he was going in. Every other angle we looked at, it was too hard to tell.
Well, they're taking some time, so you know it's awfully close. I think they just maybe have to see if they can figure out if they did tag that foot of Cabrera's before the back one got in there.
And again, it has to be clear and convincing evidence to overturn a call. Just don't know that what we've seen, it's clear.
Well, that's right. You've got a bunch of different guys looking at it, and it looks like they're coming off. Here's the best look we have, and it looked like it tagged his foot for me. Is he safe?
He's safe.
Okay. There you have it.
Again, I think it comes down to, was there anything clear and convincing? Obviously, from the replay center in New York, it wasn't clear and convincing. So the call stands, and Cabrera on the delayed steal has his 4th stolen base of the year.
So that was a delayed steal. I got you.
And Gomes got jammed, and now Cabrera is dead meat at third. Comebacker to the mound, and Cabrera was an easy out. 2 away. Boy, after all that.
Well, you get yourself into scoring position. I mean, that's a routine. That's a bad read. That's just a base running mistake. You're in scoring position. Don't give up outs on the bases. Let the pitcher just throw to first base. You're still in scoring position. Easy play for the pitcher. Bad base running play by Cabrera.
That one knocked the glove off of Rogers almost. He couldn't find the ball. So Chisholm safe at first. And the Indians will keep the inning alive. Hard hit grounder back to Rogers. It stung him in the glove, and then he couldn't find the ball.
Well, that's another ball hit sharply. It looked like it went off his toe
and
deflected off his leg, and he didn't know where it went.
I thought it got him right in the glove. No, I don't think it ever got into his glove.
No, it never hit his glove. That's Chisenhall's 3rd hit. The Indians now have 10. That's the 14th time this year now the Indians have had 10 hits.
Vilas pops the first pitch back out of play. That's the second 3-hit game of the year now for Lonnie Chisenhall. And I know it was right back at the pitcher, Rick, but he's had one to left, to right, and right back up the middle.
Yeah, that's
Mike Aviles 0 for 2 on the night, but he's been swinging a hot bat here in the month of May.
You know, when you look at it too, it seems like it. I know we mentioned this down in Tampa when we were there. The bottom part of the lineup has been doing a lot of the damage. It really has. It certainly has here tonight.
Aviles in an 0-2 hole. A little bit outside. Six, 7, and 8 hitters have 6 hits between them. Aviles trying to join the club at the number 9 spot. Chopper to short. Reyes goes to second, and they just do get Chisenhall to end the inning. Carlos Santana launches one here at the Rogers Center, and the Indians lead it 4-0. Indians lead it 4-0 going to the bottom of the 5th. But an interesting development. Michael Brantley has left the game. Nyjer Morgan has come in now in left field. He didn't detect anything when Brantley doubled to lead off the inning.
And he scored on a home run. So there's nothing there. I mean, he lined it over his head, an easy double. Don't know.
Meanwhile, Edwin Encarnacion leads off the bottom of the 5th for Toronto. He struck out his first time up. Kluber, a strike throwing machine here tonight. 35 out of his 50 pitches have been strikes. That is 70%. Four runs on 10 hits for the Indians. So far for Toronto. 12 up, 12 down. With 4 strikeouts for Corey Kluber. Found right back in the count, even up at 2-2.
Well, I'll tell you, these Blue Jay hitters, they don't get cheated, do they, Matt? They go out there, they take healthy cuts, they swing it hard.
That's like I said, Rick, earlier. I mean, even some of their outs, I mean, they're line drives. Yeah. I mean, they put good swings on the baseball.
You can see why they're first in the league in homers, because they go after it.
Chop foul.
You know, and then we were talking about Kluber when he says when you have a powerful lineup that you have to face, believe me, when they swing for the fences, they have holes in that swing. And that's why if you can pitch them inside and you can stay aggressive and you can get ahead in the count, those guys will swing and miss a lot, and you'll get your share of strikeouts if you get ahead in the count. You don't fall behind a lot of counts. He's done exactly that tonight.
High pop.
Through the roof.
There's Dribble Cabrera out there under it. One away. Well, I think it's important because he has not nibbled. And that's something Katie mentioned earlier. Let's go back and take a look at Michael Brantley. This is the leadoff double.
He didn't even have to run hard because it was a line drive over his head.
Everything looks A-OK, looks fine there.
And he scored on a home run, so you're not running hard. So I don't know what's going on. We'll find out.
When we have word, we'll pass it along. Adam Lynn struck out his first time up. Lines one toward left field. Morgan just into the ballgame on the run. Can't get to it. It gets by him. He goes down into the corner. It goes. That's the first hit of the game. And it's a one-out double in the fifth for Adam Lynn. His sixth double of the year.
Well, go figure. You come right into the game and it finds you. And you know what? Morgan knows what's going on. He went over and wanted to make a play on this ball, but he realized right at the last second he wasn't going to be able to get there. So it goes for a double. You got to try and make a catch like he did. When the guy's got a no-hitter, you're in the fifth inning. And he just wasn't going to get there, and the ball gets by him. So first hit of the ball game for the Jays.
So one on, one out for Juan Francisco, who struck out his first time up. Outside for ball one. Pulls it foul. This is the first at bat of the night. Well, they didn't have a base runner. It's the first base runner they've had. Indians, meanwhile, have had multiple opportunities. They've got the 4-run lead, but it could be a whole lot more. Did he go around? They appeal. He did.
Well, you just never know. You may think you don't go, and he sure did. That side look, you can see that barrel was out in front of the plate.
Francisco goes down hacking. Strikeout number 5 for Corey Kluber. 2 down in the fifth.
Gets him to swing over the top of the slider. And that is a beautiful pitch by Kluber. There it is, and then all of a sudden it disappears. Francisco right over the top. Great pitch. It's a good shot right there. How much that ball moves.
Brett Lawrie with 2 down the batter.
Nice pick. Very nice pick. I mean, he didn't even go to the backhand. He had to turn it, and it goes in. I think the only way is because that slider ended up bouncing back a little bit toward the glove. That's why it didn't deflect off. It was really a good play.
Oh, beautiful pitch. That fastball started it maybe off the plate or outside corner. Came back and got a little maybe too much of the plate, but Lowry gave up on it early. The Canadian native, Brett Lowry. Upstairs with it. You know, you're talking about Jason Kipnis and hopefully making a quick comeback. Brett Lowry missed 55 games last year. He had a couple of DL stints. He had an oblique strain, cost him 41 games. Wow, that's a good sized chunk of the season.
Yes,
right
it
there.
is. That's a quarter of
the season gone. He also had an ankle sprain, but the oblique is what cost him 41 games.
This guy plays the game hard. I mean, he runs hard down the line every time. He plays like his hair's on fire when he's at third base, diving and throwing things all over the place. Yeah, that was a good pitch. That was a low dart. You know, it just stayed on that plane.
Well, when a guy's been throwing the way he's been throwing all night, he's got to get that call.
He's got to be fun to catch, and he's got to be fun to umpire. He's always around the plate.
The 3-2 pitch, and it's fouled back out of play.
You know, guys like that are a treat. They're fun to play behind. They're fun to catch. They're fun to be the home plate umpire. It's the guys that are ball one, ball two. They're all over the place. You don't know where it's going. They're effectively wild. That's not fun. You know, that's not fun to watch.
Now, Kluber's been a joy to watch tonight.
He's been a joy to watch all year for me. I mean, the light's going off in his head, boy. He's just getting better and better every start.
Now Lowry going to come back for another 3-2 offering. Kluber has hit 95 miles an hour a number of times tonight, so he's what you call free and easy. And the 3-2 again. Driven to center field. Bourne won't get it. Blue Jays are on the board as Lynn comes home to score. Second double of the inning. And the Indians' lead is now 4-1. Give Lowry credit. That was a good battle. And Kluber was not going to walk him.
Well, it was a pitch that was down in the strike zone, and he hit a line drive and plugs the gap. That ball just came back over the middle of the plate. That's where Kluber got hurt. That movement coming back, and there's a good swing on the baseball. So Toronto on the board now with their second hit in the inning.
Josh Tolley struck out his first time up. Gomes going to go out for a chat for the first time tonight. .70 pitches on the night for Kluber, and still a lot of strikes. 47 out of 70. Drives bullpen quiet. He has been just dealing. He was perfect for 4 1/3, and Adam Lynn doubled just beyond the reach of Nigel Morgan in left field. And after he struck out Francisco, Brett Lowry took the count full, fouled off some pitches, and then he lined a double to center field. Drive in Toronto's first run tonight. Threw it by him. He's done that a number of times tonight. Popped him back out of play. Lays off a full count. Josh Thole, who came to Toronto along with R.A. Dickey back in November of 2012. Draws a walk.
That's a pretty good at-bats by the bottom part of this order. Lowry and Thole to keep the inning going. First walk for Kluber.
Well, fans, come on out. You can watch fireworks on Saturday. The Indians will take on the Oakland A's. That evening, the fireworks will be set to the music of the 80s hair metal bands. Go to Indians.com for your tickets and your information.
Now Corey was just humming right along. And here in this fifth inning, he's had to make 26 pitches. Mostly due to the fact that he had a pretty extended battle with Lowry, who ended up with a base hit and drove in a run. And then he went deep in the count with Thole and walked him. And now the inning continues with the number 9 hitter, Kevin Pillar. It's going to be foul. 4 years ago, when Kevin Pillar was starring at California State University, located in Carson, California, he set an NCAA Division II record with a 54-game hitting streak.
Wow, that's pretty good. I don't care what division you're in.
Oh, perfect. 95 and at the knees. Now the 2-strike offering. Off-speed pitch, got him. Strikeout number 6 for Corey Kluber. Blue Jays get on the board, and after 5, it's the Indians 4, Toronto 1.
photo of the game. Remember, you can tweet us your photos by using the hashtag STOFanPhoto for a chance to have them shown during one of our telecasts. It's all courtesy of AT&T. Top of the order for the Indians here in the 6th. Esmail Rogers worked the 5th. Came on after the first 3 Indians reached in that inning. By the way, the word on Michael Brantley is he left the game due to mid-back tightness. And he is day-to-day. Bourne shows bunt, pulled it back, took a strike, 1 and 1 to count. Fought it off, back out of play. The strange thing, I guess, for Brantley, you know, again, we didn't see anything after the double, but he looked free and easy running home to second on that double. But it might have been something
bothering him before the game. Who knows?
Yeah, it might have just grabbed him later in that inning. Down the line, slicing, out of play. You know, the interesting thing too, when I think of something like that, it's first thing I think of is, well, when you don't play on turf ever, and then all of a sudden you play 6 straight games, and this is game 5 out of the 6, you wonder, is that an element of that possibly? Down in the dirt.
Well, you don't know.
2 balls, 2 strikes to Bourne. Singled leading off the 3rd inning. The Tribe has had their leadoff man aboard in 4 straight innings. You see Jose Ramirez has a bat. I wonder if Morgan might have hurt himself going after that fly ball. I can't think of who else he would maybe be batting for, but something we'll keep an eye on.
He knows.
Just missed. Rogers thought it was strike 3. He took a long look in at Jerry Meals.
Wow. Pretty good pitch right there. Pretty good pitch.
Remember, it was Bourne who was hopping mad at Meals his last time up.
He's going to come back with the same pitch.
Bourne rips it foul.
Yeah, you're right.
He was called out on a pitch.
Totally had to, sort of moved his glove every which way.
Totally was crossed up, and Bourne thought the pitch was low. And he got into a pretty heated argument with Jerry Meals. Terry Francona intervened to make sure Bourne didn't get the heave-ho. 3-2 pitch. He chased one in the dirt. 1 down in the 6th. In-game recap brought to you by your Toyota dealers. David Murphy with an RBI single in the 2nd got the Tribe on the board first. Then in the 4th, an RBI single by Lonnie Chisenhall made it 2-0. It stayed that way until the 5th when Carlos Santana launched his 5th home run of the year to make it 4-0. Blue Jays have since gotten on the board in the bottom of the 5th. 4-1 Cleveland. Nick Swisher 0 for 3 on the night is the batter.
And you do have Ramirez on deck. So did Morgan hurt himself going after that ball in left field? Boy, the Indians may end up with nobody out here.
Inside, he misses. 1-1. Bounced it in there. Boy, what are the odds of that happening, though? You get a guy comes out of the ball game, you put somebody in to replace him, and almost immediately he goes into the game and gets hurt.
He's a second hitter.
Swisher comes up empty in the count, 2-2. Rogers readies with the 2-2, and Swisher fouls it back. Missed inside with it, and Rogers, for the second time in the inning, thought he had strike 3, and he better be careful here because Jerry Meals has probably had about enough.
You know what? It looked like a breaking ball. That's in off the
clearly
plate.
off.
I know the one to Bourne, I'll give him credit for. That one there, no, that's inside.
It looked like Tolley was set up off the plate,
and that was like a slider or cutter that was coming inside.
Then a 3-2 is ball 4. Wow, Rogers again. Hey, look out, Jerry Meals is telling him. And to Rogers' credit, he's not saying anything in response as John Gibbons is picking up the cause from the dugout.
Well, this time it's on the inside part of the plate, and it's right in there. It's close, but he hasn't called it for the last 3 pitches, so I guess you can't expect him to make the call if he's called 3 of them balls before that.
Well, Jose Ramirez is officially pinch hitting now for Nigel Morgan. So Morgan's out of the ball game without ever getting to the plate. After Brantley left with mid-back tightness, Morgan, we'll let you know when we find out. But assuming it had something to do with when he went down in left field chasing after this fly ball, he went awkwardly after it, skidding on his knee a couple of times.
Well, then where does Ramirez play?
Probably second base, and Aviles would go to the outfield.
Gotcha. There you go.
Assuming he wants to keep Rayburn for a pinch hit appearance later in the game, maybe if needed. Or he could put Rayburn into the outfield, but then you pretty much use your whole bench.
Two for one there.
Swisher holds at first. He thought about going to second, but Tolley pounced on it pretty quickly.
He thought too long. When that ball, you have to anticipate that ball being in the dirt, and you have to take off as soon as you see it. He shuffled. Now that's you got to go before that. And by that time, you have to just wait. You've got to sit and anticipate that ball being in the dirt prior to it happening.
Ramirez sends one in the air to left field. Back goes Melky Cabrera. And they're 2 down. Thursday, MLB on Fox Sports 1 returns as the Padres take on Joey Votto and the Reds. By the way, that's tomorrow. The action starts at 12:30 Eastern on Fox Sports 1 and streaming live on Fox Sports Go.
Oh, by the way, you're right. It is tomorrow.
So the Reds, I understand, got rained out. So they're starting a doubleheader tomorrow, 12:30, and Game 2 will be at 6. Carlos Santana with that majestic 2-run homer his last time up. Esmail Rogers has kind of picked up where Dustin McGowan left off, though. He's already thrown 35 pitches. And he's pitched an inning and 2/3.
Well, in his mind, he's thrown a lot more strikes than the umpires called for him.
Santana quickly stepping out. Rogers has been known to get in a bit of a hurry. We saw him
quick pitch
with nobody on base.
Right.
He'll get into that quick pitch.
Yes, he will.
But even with a runner on base, he's usually wanting to get rid of it quickly. The 2-2 in the dirt, and another good block by Tolley. Bullpen phone is ringing for Toronto as this will be the 40th pitch already for Rogers. Swisher will be off at first. 3-2 to Santana. Fouled right back. Once again, Swisher will take off. As Santana looks to do some damage with a 3-2 pitch. Ripped it foul. Aaron Loup, the left-hander, is up now for Toronto. This game hasn't exactly been played at a quick pace, but it's almost as if this last inning has ground to a complete halt. Again, the 3-2. Santana called out on strikes. We'll go to the bottom of the 6th. Indians 4 and the Blue Jays 1. 4-1 Indians lead it. Going to the bottom of the 6th inning, and now another wrinkle in this ball game. Jose Ramirez stays in the game. He goes to second base, and Mike Aviles goes into left field. Top of the order for Toronto here in the 6th. It will be Reyes, Cabrera, and Bautista. Outside for ball 1. Pops this one in the air, but that's going to get to the seats.
Well, it'll be Dollar Dog Night on Friday as the Indians will take on the Oakland A's. Dollar Dogs all night long. Go to Indians.com.
Now the 1-1. Breaking ball in there for a strike. Boy, on the year, look at that. Second time through, they have more success. Third time through, Kluber has had the upper hand. So let's see if that holds true tonight. His 7th strikeout of the night.
You know, as we talk about in this day and age of the bullpen, you know, if you go through the lineup for the 3rd time, that's nice if your batting average goes down against these guys that have seen you for a couple of times. There's a great slider down and in. He swings over the top. A lot like Francisco did his last at bat. Kluber now with 7 strikeouts. You know, it's one of those games, Matt. We talked about it. It's a 4-1 game. You don't want to give the Blue Jays any spark, and that was a big out to get that leadoff man aboard coming into the big part of the lineup.
Yeah, it's a lot like that game we had.
What was it, Chicago? Against the White Sox.
Yeah. It was a Kluber game.
Yes, it was.
That's right. Where it feels like they have a big lead, but they don't.
Yeah.
So they about hit them 10-2.
They're within striking distance. Yeah, those 2 hits just came last inning. Yeah, you can't. Every once in a while, you have to deliver a knockout punch to teams to let them know they don't have a chance. And you put them down, you keep them down. This guy, he finally gets a hit. He's been swinging it good all night long. There's the slider up. He just stayed right on. Look at, he's saying it's about time. You know, he expects to get a hit every time up. Leads the league in hits, and look at that trot.
Wow. One on, one out now. Jose Bautista 0 for 2. And he fouls one straight back. I don't know if somebody caught that baseball, if the baseball caught them, but there was an awful groan from the crowd collectively. Swung on and missed. Bautista with a huge swing and a miss.
Again, I think for the 3rd straight time, Matt, he's had Bautista down 0-2. Every time he's been up to the plate.
Well, the last time when Bautista hit the comebacker, Bautista looked like somebody stole his lunch money. Pops this one up. And it drops in foul territory. Nobody called for it, and it looked like they were both kind of not sure if the other one was going to take charge. Swisher and Ramirez. I mean, it's a tough play. I know for Swisher, he's going with his back to home plate.
Well, you have to go. I don't know. I think he lost it. You see where his hands went like that? I don't think he picked it up in the roof, to be honest with you. See, he's looking away, and then all of a sudden, why he jumps out of the way is beyond me. Because you have to hear somebody calling for him before you get out of the way. Now, whether Ramirez was doing that, I don't know. But I'm just guessing that Swisher might have lost that ball.
Batista gets another chance. Drives it to deep center field. And he one-hops the fence. He's going to bring home a run. Cabrera will score. 4-2. So Batista got that second opportunity and cashed in with his RBI double.
Yeah,
29th rookie of the year.
That was an 0-2 pitch, and not a very good one by Kluber. That was like a little cutter up and out over the plate that he smokes to center field. So the extra chance after that foul ball, that gives Toronto new life, and they're right back into the game. It's a 4-2 ball game.
Well, the Indians get their bullpen up for the first time tonight. And Mickey Callaway makes the slow walk to the mound.
They have 4 hits. 3 of them have been doubles. And all the hits coming in the last 2 innings.
Well, that's Toronto. I mean, the extra base hitting machine.
Yeah. They have 74 doubles now on the year, which is about 6th in the league.
And they have gone 26 games in a row now with at least 1 extra base hit. I mean, even on a night like tonight where Corey Kluber was completely dominating them into the 5th inning, they've still managed 4 hits, and 3 of them have been doubles. But we talked about that before. That's the kind of offense they possess. Encarnacion 0 for 2 on the night. Pops one straight up. Back to the screen. And Gomes squeezes it for out number 2. I think he
did.
Did he break his bat? Did he slam it and break it?
Yes, slamming it. Yes, because that ball stayed in play. Hit it down on the turf. He was upset. He took a big hack and popped it up behind the dish, and you hate. As a hitter, you hate making it out. Watch this. There it goes. That's like you're just giving that bat away right there. He had intentions of tying the game up, but it goes for the second out for Kluber and the Indians.
Adam Lynn doubled and scored in the 5th. He gave an at bat away and gave a bat away at the same time. Lynn sends one to deep left field. Back is Aviles. On the track at the wall. He jumps up and makes the catch to end the inning. The super utility man, Mike Aviles, makes a fine play in deep left field. And it's a 4-2 Indians lead. The Rogers Center in Toronto. Look in from our Panini's overstuffed cam. We are going now to the 7th inning. And the new pitcher for Toronto, Marcus Stroman. By the way, the word on Nyjer Morgan is that he left with a right knee strain. So that play that he tried to make on the ball in left field obviously came up with an injury when he went down to the turf pretty hard twice on that knee. Meantime, the Indians' lead is down to just 2 runs. Cabrera, Murphy, Gomes due up here. Fly ball left field, dropping in a hurry. Cabrera can't get there. It's a fair ball. And has dribbled Cabrera into second base with a leadoff double. And that is the 3rd leadoff double of the night for the Indians. And the 5th time in 7 innings they've had their leadoff man aboard.
Well, he just sliced this ball down the line. Popped it up, but it stayed fair. High bounce off the turf, so an easy double for Cabrera. His 10th double of the year. You love the leadoff doubles. Let's see him take advantage of it here. Get him over, get him in.
David Murphy led off the 4th inning with a double. He has also singled and driven in a run, scored a run. Last time up, he flied to center. A little bit outside. It's 1-1. Murphy just flicked the bat at it, and it's out of play. 2-2. Marcus Stroman doesn't look very big when you watch him from up here, and that's confirmed by looking at his height weight. He's 5'9", 185 pounds listed.
He's got a pretty good arm.
You don't see many pitchers that short, do you?
Not right-handed.
Murphy, ground ball up the middle, into center field, a base hit around third. As dribble Cabrera will score, and the Indians answer right back to increase their lead to 5-2. It's the 3rd hit of the night for David Murphy.
Exactly what they needed to do is respond, come back and answer it, and stop that momentum that Toronto was building. And look at that ball away, but he was able to get the barrel of the bat out front, at least pull that ball to the right side, and on the turf it gets through for his 3rd hit. He will have his 2nd RBI of the night. Yeah, he will make it a 5-2 game.
He almost looked like he was stiff-legged when he swung through that ball.
And you know what? He wanted to get the barrel head of that bat out in front so he could pull it.
He has to have some of the most creative swings.
There you go. Watch this. Foot goes up and down, and then he ended up just through all arms on that one. His foot went down in a hurry, and that pitch was away, but he was still able to turn on it. So got the job done and got the bonus of driving it in. 12 hits now for the Indians.
Gomes chops one to third. Short hop nicely by Francisco. They get one at second, but they do not turn the double play.
That's a pretty good turn. Well, again, this weekend we'll start the first display of fireworks coming around this year, and on Friday and Saturday you will see it. Oakland A's will be in town, and on Friday night it'll be set to the boss, Bruce Springsteen, and on Saturday night it'll be set to the music of the 80s hair metal bands. So go to Indians.com for your tickets.
Lonnie Chisenhall working on a 3-hit night. 3 singles. He had a 4-hit game back in April against Detroit.
Well, both Murphy and Chisenhall have 3 hits in this game. They have half the hits.
Lonnie lines one toward left field. Cabrera coming on. He won't get it. It's a 4-hit game for Lonnie Chisenhall. His second on the year. A perfect 4 for 4. He's just starting over. Remember, his first hit tonight was to left field. Then they had the RBI single to right before he singled right back up the middle his last time up.
Well, keep him rolling. Keep him rolling.
It's the 3rd time tonight the Indians have had 3 hits in an inning. But as you said, Rick, it would be nice to see him put a big crooked number on the board.
A crooked number and a knockout punch. Deliver the knockout punch when have an opportunity. And they have had opportunities tonight.
Mike Aviles 0 for 3.
Got 13 hits tonight. The most hits they've had on the year is 15.
Right back up the middle. That's through. Coming around third. Yan Gomes will score. On his way to third is Lonnie Chisenhall. He'll go in safely. And Mike Aviles keeps the carousel spinning for Cleveland. And they lead it now 6-2.
Well, that's what they're doing now. Now you're delivering the knockout punch. Aviles, he gets on the hit board with an RBI, his 11th, right back up the middle. Well, now 6-2. Chisenhall able to go to third base. They still have runners at the corners and still just 1 out.
Michael Bourne 1 out of 4 on the night. Takes a strike.
One more hit here may send some of these fans to the gates.
I was just thinking this might be the only at bat Michael Bourne has ever had in which he was taller than the pitcher. Michael checks in at 5'10", so he's got an inch on Marcus Stroman. The 2-1. Pretty good pitch at 94 miles an hour. And the count evens at 2-2.
Can only think of one other guy that Bourne has faced that he may be taught, and that's Collins for Kansas City, the left-hander. He was on the disabled list this year when we faced him.
Chopper up the middle. Reyes waits back, steps on the bag, unloads to first, and they get the double play to get out of the inning. But the Indians get 2 more. And we've reached the 7th inning stretch here in Toronto with the Indians in front by a score of 6-2. 7th inning stretch brought to you by Spitzer Auto World. Life is hard. Buying a car shouldn't be. Indians are back here at the Rogers Center tomorrow night to wrap up the series. Danny Salazar will be pitching for the Tribe. Indians Live kicks off tonight at 6:30. And then we'll have the first pitch at 7 right here on Sports Time Ohio. Juan Francisco, Brett Lawrie, Josh Tolley due up for Toronto here in the 7th. Bullpen busy behind Corey Kluber, who begins the inning, as you see there, 93 pitches on the night.
Well, I'm sure that 2 runs just helped Kluber go back out there in this 7th inning for Terry Francona. Going back to face Francisco, who's had a lot of success against. 2 strikeouts tonight.
Corey retired the first 13 Blue Jays to start the ball game before Adam Lynn sliced a double to left field. Two balls and a strike. The Indians have out-hit Toronto tonight 14-4. Close, but did not get the call on a 3-2 count. This is another guy that when he turns it loose, he does not get cheated. Puts everything into that swing. Locked him up with a beautiful off-speed pitch. And that is strikeout number 8 for Corey Kluber.
And the hat trick for Francisco. He had him looking all the way. He just sat and watched this one drop into the strike zone. Check it out. Let's see what you think. The break on this pitch. He gives up on it, says no, no, no. Uh-oh. Uh-oh, got me.
That one almost more like a curveball.
Yeah. He's got a curveball. He's got a slider. He's got the cutter. He's got everything.
Brett Lawrie, RBI double in the 5th.
Yeah, he drove in the first run with a very good at-bat there. 2-out double.
Kluber with another good breaking ball. He's staying with it. That's 3 straight. Struck out Francisco, and then back-to-back breaking balls to Lawrie to get ahead 0-2. Now, if you're Lawrie, you're thinking, I got to gear up for that fastball if he comes in with it. Does it go right back to the well?
He can go whatever he wants. They want it upstairs. They were going to show him the fastball, but I think Gomes wanted it up out of the zone. You know, one of those guys that you show him the fastball, attack him with the off-speed pitches. Now that he's ahead in the count, maybe he'll go fish for the breaking ball off the dish.
Looks like that's what he wants. Slider down on the dirt.
Nice. There it was.
Another off-speed wicked pitch. Number 9 for Kluber. 2 down in the 8th.
Boy, again, Kluber coming out. It seems like he's getting 9 strikeouts every time he goes out and takes the mound. What he did, he put a little more tilt on this ball. And it had a little more spin to it. More of like a curveball. To get the good tilt to it.
Boy, that's a great look, isn't it?
Yeah,
for the camera?
it really is. And you can see where the hitter, once he starts, he cannot stop. So, all right, this is third straight start now. He had 9 in Tampa. He's got 9 tonight. He had 13 against the White Sox.
Now 1-0. Chop towards first base. Swisher says, I'll take it.
Good
He does.
7. Good 7.
How about Corey Kluber? 9 more strikeouts. 6-2 Cleveland. Is presented by authority of the Cleveland Indians and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form. And the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the Cleveland Indians. Looks like Corey Kluber's night is over. Yeah, he's getting handshakes. 7 wonderful innings again for the Indians right-hander.
Well, we talk about those punch-outs he's been getting. 3 straight starts. First time since 08 CC. That many strikeouts. He's been impressive.
Yeah, we told you coming in his last 4 starts, he was averaging 12 strikeouts per 9 innings, and he did nothing to hurt those numbers at all. To the count on Swisher. How about some new material, pal? Now the 0-2. Marcus Earl Stroman was drafted out of Duke University in the first round. Duke's first ever first-round draft pick in baseball. Obviously, they've had a few in basketball.
Oh, yeah.
He was the 22nd overall pick, and while you see the velocity, you do have to wonder what the conversation was like in the room when you've got a guy 5'9" and you're going to use your first-round pick.
Yeah, as a right-handed pitcher.
Yeah.
You don't see many right-handers that are under 6 foot tall. And even when they do throw hard, you figure, oh, well, he might be frail. You know, he's not big enough where he'll hold up through any length of time.
Yeah, you mentioned Tim Collins, who's only 5'7", the lefty for Kansas City,
right?
But left-handed,
right? Different.
Well, last year was his breakout year in the minor leagues. He struck out 129 batters in 111 innings of work. This is only his third professional season, and he's already in the big leagues. And in his first year, he pitched in 15 games. Last year, he only pitched in 20, but those were as a starter. All 20 games he started. Jose Ramirez with his second at-bat of the night. And on the ground to second. Laurie goes to the bag to get the force. It's a nice play for a guy who's just learning the position at second base. You got to stop and spin and make a perfect throw, and he did just that. One down. As promised earlier, it's Miller time, brought to you by Miller Lite. Carlos Santana back in the 5th inning. Goodbye. His 5th home run of the year. He has 13 runs batted in now. And now 4 hits for Santana in his last 3 games. 2 more walks tonight as well. The Indians have only been retired in order once in the ballgame, and that was in the very first inning. And even in the 6th inning, when they only had 4 men go to the plate, I'm not sure, but I think Esmail Rogers needed about 25 pitches to get through that inning. So they have taken each and every at bat and grinded it out here tonight. They haven't had the big knockout inning, but 1 in the 2nd, 1 in the 4th, 2 in the 5th, 2 in the 7th.
Yeah, they've made him throw a lot of pitches. Each pitcher tonight for Toronto.
Bouncer to first. Lynn goes to second. They'll get the force, or do they?
Safe. Yeah,
he is called safe at the base.
Absolutely.
Never had the ball.
No, he did not. He dropped it. Trying to turn the double play when you really, I don't think they really would have had a chance anyway. So what's the sense? You have to get it out here. This should go as another error. Lynn goes ahead and gives him a good throw, but you can see he never really had it. And that's the third baseman that's taking this throw, because Santana, with the shift, he's down there at second base.
He had it in the glove, but he never transferred it to the hand at all.
Right, so that's another error. They've had 3 errors in the series. He's trying to do too much.
And as Dribble Cabrera takes ball 1. And there's a line drive base hit into right center field. Coming around third, Ramirez going to be waved home. Batista's throw to no one in particular. And the Indians grab another run and lead it now 7-2. For Cabrera, his 12th RBI on the year. And that is going to be it for Marcus Stroman. So the Indians do make the Jays pay for the defensive miscue here.
Yeah, they tie their season high in hits with 15 now. So Cabrera gets his third hit. You've got the three guys with at least 3 hits. Chisenhall has 4. So offense is starting to come around here north of the border.
Timeout in Toronto. Indians up 5. Up 7-2. 2 on and 1 out, batting in the 8th inning. The batter will be David Murphy. He's bidding for his second 4-hit game of the season. His first came back against the Twins on April the 6th.
He
lines one to the gap in left center field. This might clear the bases. Around third, scoring is Santana. Coming around third, Cabrera's going to be waved home. He scores 2. David Murphy delivers a 2-run double. His 4th hit of the night. And the Indians now on top 8-2.
Wow, I mean, and he has a 4 RBI game. He's had a number of those this year. I think in 4 or 5 of them. Boy, there's 4 hits for David Murphy. And he pulled a couple. There was a base hit and an RBI his first at bat. Then he gets the leadoff double back in the 4th. Another single that gets the runner over and in, and then plugs a gap in the left center field for his 4th hit. He now has 4 RBIs and a big night for David.
Already the 3rd time this year he's had 4 RBIs in a game.
Yeah. Well, you remember earlier in the year he was the one guy that was driving him in for the Indians before Michael Brantley started, who's been so consistent. But those 2 guys have been the mainstays for him as far as driving him home.
Yan Gomes sends a towering pop right field over near the line. Batista and makes the catch for out number 2. Now Lonnie Chisenhall coming up. He's a perfect 4 for 4 on the night. Opposite field, then he pulled one. Then his 3rd hit went right back up the middle off the leg of
Ricochet.
Esmiel Rogers. Then he went back to the opposite field his last time up. So this one should go to right field.
You've got it figured out, huh?
Inside corner, a strike is called. Nine runs, 16 hits tonight for Cleveland. Oh, he had a good rip. Fouls it back. That nearly hit him. And a count of ball and 2 strikes. Neil Wagner, a former Indians farmhand, 21st round pick of the Tribe back in 05. Indians dealt him to Oakland on May 11th, 2010 for a player to be named later. Not sure who that turned out to be. That ball's hammered deep center. Back is Pilar, makes the catch to end the inning. But the Indians having a hit party tonight here in Toronto, and the Tribe leads it 9-2. Stay tuned for Indians Live, brought to you by Conrad's Tire Express and Total Car Care. It's coming up right after the ball game here on Sports Time Ohio. Brian Shaw has come on now for Cleveland to pitch the 8th inning. Shaw working for the 21st time this year, 1-0, 1.45 ERA. He's only walked 3 and he struck out 17 in his 18 2/3 innings. Kevin Pillar, the number 9 hitter to lead off for Toronto. He is 0 for 2.
Yeah, last appearance for Shaw was Sunday when he had a 1-2-3 ninth and got the save down in Tampa, so he needs to get some work.
Back out of play. Popped in the air. Ramirez, the second baseman, is there. And he has it for out number 1. Corey Kluber was simply terrific tonight. Came out and retired the first 13 Blue Jays to start the game. He would leave with 9 strikeouts on the night. He walked 1 batter. Gave up 2 runs.
Yeah. Again, the 3rd straight start, 9 or more strikeouts. First time since 2008. Last pitcher to do that, CC Sabathia.
Wraps one toward left center. That's in the gap again. Let's see if he's got an easy triple. It sure would appear that way. Nope, he's going to pull into second and stop right there. Down 7. Can't take any chances.
Yeah, a little different with the score. When you're down by 7 runs, you're not going to break out of that box like you have to get to third base. But he did plug the gap, so he'll be satisfied with a double. Their 4th double on the evening. That's Reyes' first hit tonight.
Both of his hits so far in the series have been in the exact same spot.
Left center.
Now Melky Cabrera singled up the middle. His last time up. The only team in the Central Division that appears to be on the verge of losing tonight is Minnesota. They are losing at Fenway against Boston. Kansas City beat Colorado 3-2. Detroit won again, beating Baltimore 7-5. Chicago beat Oakland. Indians would appear to have this game in hand. 2 down here in the 8th.
Well, relive the first 20 years at the ballpark with a 20th anniversary poster. That'll take place on May 20th. The Indians will take on the Detroit Tigers, and 10,000 fans will receive the poster, which depicts the home opener back in 1994. Visit Indians.com for your tickets.
Jose Bautista, RBI double his last time up. Slider for a strike. Upstairs with it. Took a lot of time for Jose Bautista to sort of get things figured out when you consider he made his major league debut back in 2004. And never hit more than 16 homers in the big leagues, and then all of a sudden in 2010 he hit 54. Chopped to short. Cabrera on the move. Unloads in a hurry. Got him, and the inning is over. 8 complete from Toronto. The Indians 9 and the Blue Jays 2. Ninth inning here in Toronto. The Indians with a 9-2 advantage. Mike Aviles, Michael Bourne, Nick Swisher due up for the Tribe. Neil Wagner. I mentioned before, Rick, he was originally an Indians draft pick and then traded to Oakland in their media guide for a player to be named later. Did a little investigating on that, and I think that was one of those deals where, again, when you're trading minor league players, it could be cash that, you know, there wasn't actually a player that went the other way for Cleveland. But you know, it took a while for Wagner to get things figured out. He was picked by the Indians, then he went to Oakland. Oakland put him on the waiver wire. San Diego took him, and then they let him go, and then Toronto took a shot. Good arm. You see the velocity, you see what scouts would get excited about, but sometimes the ability to harness it and put it all together hasn't been there yet.
Well, it goes to show you nowadays with the bullpens, there's so many pitchers out there now.
Ripped to left field. Mike Aviles turned on that fastball in a hurry. Might have been an off-speed pitch, but he slides into second base with a double.
Yeah, this one was smoked. He left that ball middle in. Aviles turns on that one, gets it down, and he will get his 5th double, 2nd hit of the night.
Thought it was a fastball because it didn't look like it moved, but then I looked up at the radar gun that said 87. Maybe it was a changeup that just kind of
could have been.
Out.
It was a flattened out and just stayed there. Right, didn't go down. With that fastball, he can throw what, 95, 96.
Wagner was one of those guys that was a little bit like a Paul Shuey. In other words, he was a reliever in college, a closer, and he was drafted. I mean, that was kind of the idea. He never started a game, ever, in his professional career. Now Michael Bourne turns one around. That's in the gap. There, home comes Mike Aviles. The Indians' 10th run of the night, and Michael Bourne's headed to third with an easy triple, his 4th on the season. Boy, the Indians are wrapping the baseball around the yard tonight. Their 18th hit of the game.
Yeah, by far their most. And for Bourne, that's got to lead the league, doesn't it? 4 triples.
That leads the league unless Trout, Reddick, Stewart, Ibar, or Rios, or Infante had one.
Yeah, okay. Well, you find the gap, and that's I'm betting they didn't. That one goes up against the wall, so the Indians will add another run, another hit. It's 10-2. And I think they have finally delivered that knockout punch that we were talking about.
Yes, indeed.
And they did that a few innings ago. And you can see that Toronto is just defeated here. Again, Swisher's bat comes out of his hand. That happened last night.
Strange.
When you have gloves on like that and you're using pine tar and that claw, I don't know how it happens.
Well, you see, Nick's he's got the, you know, he doesn't have the hand hanging off the end of the bat like some guys either. But Bart Swain checking in with us tonight, saying that the last time the Indians had 2 players get 4 hits in a game was back in 2012 in Baltimore when Lou Marson, Shin-Soo Choo, and Jose Lopez all did it.
Wow.
And Lopez, I believe, had 5 hits in that game. It's been a game, though, offensively for the Indians that they've been waiting for. Hopefully one that gets them rolling.
Well, the only one in the lineup that started that doesn't have a hit is at the plate right now. He's reached on an error, walked a couple times, made a couple outs.
Let's go, kid.
2-2 count. And fouled off toward the third base coaching box. You know, I'm thinking about Ty Van Berkeley and Matt Picharo. You put in all that work with these hitters, countless hours of batting practice, and probably more time just talking about swings and at-bats and pitch selection and what you're thinking. It's nice to have a game like this for your hitters to where you can see some of the positive results, all that work paying off, so you can say, hey, see what we're doing? This is the end result of that.
It is nice when you start putting up some really crooked numbers like they have tonight. You want that to be infectious. You want it to carry over. You want to get on a run like that, because when an offense can start doing things like that, it's a lot of fun.
It's fun when you look at that Hyundai in-game box score and you see all those numbers and all those notes on the side. How many times have we looked up at that this year and only seen a few hits and a few things to really talk about? Jose Ramirez 0 for 2 since coming into the ballgame. This is another story in the ballgame as Ramirez lines a single in the left. He brings home Michael Bourne with the Tribe's 11th run tonight. And that's the first career run batted in for Jose Ramirez. $19 hits now for Cleveland as Carlos Santana comes up. But Rick, I was going to say the other storyline tonight that we'll have to really hold our breath until we find out the end results. But the early exit of Michael Brantley.
Yes.
And then the early exit of Nyjer Morgan, who came on for Brantley. We'll have to check their status afterwards. Santana trying to bloop one in, but Jose Reyes makes a terrific over-the-shoulder running catch for out number 2. Brantley left with mid-back tightness, and Nyjer Morgan left with a right knee strain. Both of those injuries occurring in the 5th inning. And the odd thing about it was that Brantley's injury came with the Indians batting. And so Morgan immediately went in defensively, and he got hurt 2 batters in.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to wait and see tomorrow. Cabrera now with a chance to get his 4th hit tonight. He has 3.
3 straight. 23 at bats with a runner in scoring position tonight.
Seems like we've gone a month and haven't had that many. But boy, oh boy, they sure have had their opportunities tonight.
Cabrera taking a called strike. There's Ty Van Berkeley. Well, Rick, just taking the numbers, the total numbers, the Indians have averaged 8 at-bats per game with a runner in scoring position. That's on average if you take all the numbers and add them up. So to have 23.
Yeah, they above and beyond. But boy, they need it. You need games like this.
Yeah, where everybody,
they only have 1 home run. They have 5 doubles, a triple, and a boatload of singles.
Cabby might have chased one up out of the strike zone that time, and the count goes full now at 3-2. But as you like to say, they had a team party tonight.
They had a team party, and basically everybody showed up.
And Cabrera joined the 4-hit club. We'll find out on this 3-2 pitch. It's ball 4. The inning will continue. Cabrera will not get his 4th hit.
He was going to try.
But David Murphy might get his 5th.
Yes. Cabrera wasn't going to take that pitch. He just couldn't swing at it.
Yeah.
He was going to swing no matter where that was at. He was trying for 4 hits.
David Murphy is 4 for 5 in the ballgame, with 2 singles and 2 doubles.
Another 4 RBI game from Murphy. He said that was his 3rd of the year.
The last time David Murphy had a 5-hit game, it's happened twice in his career. The last time was in September of 2010 against the Angels. Murphy drives one deep right field. Down the line it goes. It's a fair ball up the wall. Coming around to score is Ramirez into second base with his 5th hit of the night is David Murphy, equaling his career best. It's the 3rd time he's had a 5-hit game.
Well, let's take a look at all 5 of them. 3 of them are going to be doubles, Matt. There's the first one to drive in a run. There's the second one. That was a double. There's another base hit and an RBI. Now comes 2 more doubles. He plugs the gap in left center. Now he's going to drive one off the wall halfway up. It only drives home 1. He was caught in between. He was going to stop at first base, but decided to keep on going because the throw was behind him. So another RBI, and what a night for Murphy.
And it's the 3rd time in his career he's driven in 5 runs in a ball game. First time in a couple of years, but another big night. And Neil Wagner has had a rough go of it here tonight. He's given up 5 hits since he came into the game last inning. And of the 5 hits, 4 of them have been extra bases. Yeah, 3 doubles and a triple. Yan Gomes, the 8th man to bat in the inning. Swing and a miss, the count 0-2. Missed outside. 1 ball, 2 strikes. 2 gone in the ninth, and the Indians up by 10. Gomes a single back in the 4th inning. He has also scored a run tonight. Foul right back. Series finale tomorrow night at 7 right here on Sports Time Ohio. And the Indians will come home. Weekend series against Oakland, then Detroit comes to town. Wagner lets it fly, and another foul back by Gomes. up and away, and the count 2-2. These guys, the fielders for the Blue Jays, must feel like they've spent the entire night out on defense.
No kidding. It's almost like their feet have roots growing into the AstroTurf and they can't move. They have had to run down a lot of stuff tonight.
And they've spent a lot of time just, on the clock.
Oh, they've been out in the field all night long.
Indians went 1-2-3 to start the game. And they've had long innings, long at-bats ever since.
I think about halfway through the game, they went out and they put their sneakers on because they had their running shoes to go get everything. It has been one of those days for the Indians offense, and it's been one of those days for Toronto pitching. 20 hits. You don't see that very often.
Gomes yanks it foul, hit it hard.
And the thing of it is, they're taking great swings off this guy. He's not fooling anybody.
I can't. Have there been any swings and misses?
Not many.
For a guy that throws 96, 97.
Well, what's that tell you?
Straight.
Yeah. You better hit your locations and keep it down. I don't care how hard you throw. And what is he doing to complement that fastball, or taking off the fastball? But they are.
His off-speed stuff's either been way out of the strike zone or it's been up like that, and it's fouled off.
I mean, he can't throw one by anybody. And yeah, just look at the defensive guys. They're standing there, hands on their hips. They're going, my goodness, when can we get a chance to hit?
Rick, that was Toronto's 204th pitch of the night.
I can believe it. It seems like they'd have 404. 204 pitches. And we're in the 9th inning. I wonder how many strikes. I'm sure Mike will know that too.
John Gibbons looks like he wants to fight everybody.
Well, it's just one of those games that you gotta live through. And it's not fun. It is if you're on the winning side. Oh, he didn't hold on to it. That's the way the night goes. A foul tip. He's been back there. Well, he hasn't had many to try and catch because they're all going out into the field.
He's been out there for all 205 pitches, though, crouching down.
Just a little tip, and he never even got a glove on it. It deflected it right into the chest. I thought it hit his glove. It did not.
They're going to take Tolian and just put him on ice after the game. 130 strikes out of the 205.
I knew they'd have it. It's not a very good ratio either.
Again, the 3-2 pitch. And Gomes sends a high drive to deep right field. So long! Yan Gomes with a 3-run homer. His 6th home run of the season. And the Indians have scored 6 runs in the 9th inning.
I think it's relieving a little bit of frustration. The 2nd home run, Gomes now gets his 6th. There's a fastball up, elevated out over the plate, and it's going to leave the yard in right field. A three-pointer for Gomes.
Well, Neil Wagner was drafted by the Cleveland Indians. I'll tell you one thing, he'll never forget the night he faced the Cleveland Indians here in Toronto. He's out with 2 outs in the 9th inning after the Indians have already plated 6 runs. So John Gibbons has to make a pitching change in a 15-2 ball game. Ooh. Now Lonnie Chisenhall has a 5-hit game. Lonnie lines one into right field. He's into second base with a double. A career night for Chisenhall, his first 5-hit game in the big leagues. And the Indians have batted around now here in the 9th inning as Mike Aviles will come up for the second time.
He didn't waste any time. This is a position player that's out there pitching now, Tollison. He ended up stealing a base last night's ball game. And look at that. They got 7 doubles, a triple, 2 homers, 10 extra base hits out of their 22 hits. Give Tollison credit. He's throwing strikes.
I wonder when the last time the Indians had 2 players with 5 hits.
I don't.
In the ball game.
Bart will be on it. You know that.
1932. The last time the Indians had 2 players with 5 hits in the same game. But that's what happens here tonight. Lonnie Chisenhall and David Murphy leading the charge. Stay tuned for Indians Live, brought to you by Conrad's Tire Express and Total Car Care. If you missed anything, stay tuned because that's some history here tonight. Lonnie Chisenhall with his first career 5-hit game. David Murphy also had 5 hits tonight, equaling his career best. It's the first time, Mike Pacta tells us, that the Indians have had 2 players have 5 hits in the same game since 1932. But mind you, that was in an 18-inning game. The last time it happened in a 9-inning game was 1928 on July the 29th in an Indians rout of the New York Yankees, in which they won 24-6.
I think that's going back a little ways, huh?
So we saw something pretty rare.
My goodness.
Something pretty rare here tonight in Toronto. Eric Kratz getting in at bat here for Toronto, batting for Encarnacion in the 9th, as Carlos Carrasco has come on to pitch. You know, the funny thing about this, Rick, and you brought it up, you know, at one point the Indians had clearly outplayed Toronto, but it was only a 4-1 game. It felt like it should be a lot more than that, but it wasn't. Well, now it feels that way, and it is.
I'll tell you what the big play was after Toronto cut it to 4-2, they came right back, and it was a base hit that stopped the momentum, and then they just unloaded. Then they just said, all right, enough. They went to it. They delivered the knockout punch.
Well, it was David Murphy. Murphy got that RBI hit.
RBI
Cabrera came out, started the inning with a double.
Yep.
And then Murphy drove him home. They would add another run, and you're right. They put the hammer down on him after that.
Yes, they did.
Pratt strikes out, 1 down in the 9th. Let's look back at our keys to the game, brought to you by Akron Children's Hospital. Early offense, as they would say here in Canada. 26 at bats with a runner in scoring position. And Kluber was just dynamite.
Again.
Line toward left field. That'll be a base hit. Adam Lind aboard. His second hit of the night. 1 on, 1 out here in the bottom of the ninth. Upstairs, ball 1 to Juan Francisco, who is 0 for 3 tonight, striking out all 3 times. That was against Corey Kluber.
Yeah, he had no chance tonight. Kluber really worked Francisco over.
Just outside. 3 balls, no strikes. Either there's a guy here at the ballpark who is in love with the sound of his own voice, or he has been completely overserved by the high-test Canadian
beer. I think they
beer.
quit serving it in the 7th inning. He might have brought his own bottle. BYOB.
This guy is bellowing at the top of his lungs for no apparent reason.
He's going to go home and yell at himself.
Maybe he heard me stopped. Three-two count on Juan Francisco. Carrasco deals, and that ball's hammered. Deep right field. And off the top of the wall. Into third is Adam Lind. He's got to make a quick right turn. Head home, and he scores. Quick left turn. And the Blue Jays get a run home here in the ninth. Carlos Carrasco.
Well, he fell behind him 3-0 and then has to come back to him and throws him the fastball. We know Francisco can hit it. He short hops the wall. That'll go as a double, their 5th. So back-to-back hits. Toronto says, look, we've had to stand out there all day long. We're going to keep you guys out there for a while.
Adam Lind, he ran straight into third as if he was going to stop, and Luis Rivera said, no, keep going. So he kind of had to adjust his footwork as he went around the bag.
Well, yeah, you got to get your man an RBI. Let's go, man. You got to score.
Chop to third. Santana waits back on it. 2 down. Josh Thole will bat 0 for 2. Dustin McGowan started this game tonight for Toronto. That seemed like another year ago, didn't it? He went 4 innings and gave up 4 runs on 9 hits. Struck out 3, walked 2. By Santana. Another hit for the Jays. And another run home. I know the game's out of control, and this is inconsequential as far as the outcome of the game, but for Carlos Carrasco, I mean, this is a situation where this should be easy money, easy pickings.
Well, you certainly want to come out and do your job and your share. When you get the opportunities, they've been minimal since coming out of the pen, but when you get into a game like this, you certainly do want to have a nice quick inning. He's given up 3 hits, though.
I mean, how are you supposed to instill confidence in your manager when in a game like this you come in and you're getting wrapped around? When's he supposed to be able to use you?
Well, he won't be able to until in games like this that are rare.
Hit hard to short. Cabrera's there, goes to second, and the ball game is over. The Indians' biggest offensive output of the season. 15 runs for the Tribe, 22 hits, and they cruise to a 15-4 win over the Toronto Blue Jays. They've evened the series at a game apiece, and a huge night for David Murphy and Lonnie Chisenhall, each with 5 hits. First time in the